Salam alaikum. Wa sabah al khair. Good morning to you all. It's a pleasure and honor to be in this August gathering this morning, and we hope to add few enlightenment to the already enlightened group through rich discussions this morning on lean and business transformation challenges.
The vision of the 2020 states the diversifying the economy is the key factor. So before we talk about the lean, it's very important for us to get a macro picture of where we are really heading to. If you see, the globalization has become one of the major agenda in the vision statement, and particularly upgrading the skill of the Omani workforce, which is a very important and critical aspect that has been stated. So now big data, blockchain, there are quite a number of things that are really going to redefine the way in which this world is going to work. Now at this point in time, as leadership team, it is extremely important for us to think that a small change is not really going to matter. What is required is a transformation, is a major change in the mindset of the people. Because lean, many times people think that it is a tool and a technique, and it becomes a fad for a while and stays in the organization and disappears. Unless otherwise the leadership team is very clear of the intention of this transformation, then the lean will not become successful. One of the most important aspects is keeping the profit at the center of the agenda. Many organizations in the developing countries have failed to do that because the business was running in one track and the lean transformation was running in another track. So that means they were not merging together. Another aspect is, because we have been having an old process in our organization, over a period of time we feel that that's the best way to work, that's the best way to run the business. Somebody has defined stupidity, trusting the old process and expecting new results. The whole organizational value stream transformation is very important, and it requires a holistic approach. If you have not created a culture in the organization whereby people are inclined to get into the organizational issues and try to tackle problems, they will not be willing to do a major transformation in the organization. Lean fits in there. Enrolling the leadership team is the most toughest in any organizational transformation. Because higher the education, greater is the resistance to change, right? Somebody has defined psychological inertia is a function of education, knowledge, and experience. Higher the education, greater is the psychological inertia. Resistance to change. Higher the knowledge, greater is the resistance to change. Higher the experience, greater is the resistance to change. People generally blame that how do I change my workman? Believe me, you don't need to have any effort to change the workman, because they are the most innocent people. They neither have a higher education, they neither have a higher experience like you and me, and they don't have any bias, right? The most difficult part I have experienced the whole of my transformation consulting is the leadership team. They sit in the boardroom and they say yes to the chairman, everything. They come to the elevator and then say nothing will change in this organization.
Now, before I start, I want to admit something. I was a skeptic of lean, of Six Sigma, of total quality management. I never thought that these initiatives really add value. And I thought, well, maybe it's a good idea to try something different this time. And hence, we started the engagement with NC and with Mr. Levine. And we started the discussion, I think it was in February of this year. You know, the normal engagement sessions, we talk about the challenges that we have. They talk about the things they can do to help us come out from these challenges. So, February 2018 was where we had this initial discussion. We had an official rollout in April. And then, as of today, I think it's a continuous process that we are going to continue. It's a journey that has a beginning, but does not have an end to it. The first thing that we realized was that there was a lot of wastage in our raw material usages. And in our industry, the raw material constitutes up to 70% of our cost. Yeah? And really tackling that had double the effect of tackling anything else. So we spent a lot of time looking at our material and how to reduce the wastage. We have 6 production lines. We started with the production line 1, and we found out that there was a lot of small initiatives that can be included to our machinery that will save us 2 kilograms of resin per pipe. And on an annual basis, we produce 300 kilometers of pipes, so that makes us, significant wastage on each pipe basis. So we started with line 1. We implemented this very simple solution, and then we replicated the same on all other production lines. And the improvement was that our wastage went down from 10% to 3% or 2.5%. Yeah? The savings was 70,000 riyals. The other realization, a significant realization with Lean, is that we identified that our business requires a lot of skills. But in CPI, these skills were inherited skills, i.e. they move from one person to another by verbal training, not by official training scheme. And after a discussion and after a lot of homework from SSA and from my organization leaders, we decided that having an in-house school to build the skills of our employees was of immense importance. Direct benefit was around 100,000 riyals, but our potential benefit for next year is more than 200,000 riyals, and that is only by really creating a new mindset in the organization. And today I can confidently say that whether we have SSA with us or we do not have them, they were very successful in building that change in the mindset of our people. SSA's role was to make us change the way we think about our problems. We measure. I mean, whatever initiative we had, whatever problem we had, we converted them into a measurable problem. And once you can measure them, as Mr. Anet said, if you can measure them, then you can ultimately solve them.
Lean, in my opinion, is a way of life. It's passion, it's love, it's the voice of the customer. And I see many mistakes, which is also important because we must also embrace and learn from our mistakes. When organizations talk about lean, that we have lean projects and but they look at it from a purely project deployment viewpoint, which I think is not the right approach. Lean must start top down and then down upwards. And it's a culture. It means also that it must be practiced at home. The success stories must be shared. And the culture of continuous improvement must be communicated. There's SSA who are working with Oman Post over a 3-year time frame to help us achieve business excellence at Oman Post. Why lean at Oman Post? Because we are not in the business of reinventing the wheel. If we look at the successful postal and logistics operators around the world, from La Poste to Swiss Post to DHL, lean is something that has been practiced successfully, and it has worked. And this is, in a very, very simply put, this is why Oman Post has chosen lean as a process continuous improvement methodology. Lean is also a systematic way of doing things. And NC talks about this a lot. There's a difference between being systematic and doing it systematically and doing it based on trial and error. And for those of you who are passionate about change management, this is something that you need to pay attention to when you hire or when you engage with your experts in your companies. I'll share an example from Amman Post. We have a lot of big boys who have 20 plus experience in postal industry, and they've worked for the likes of Royal Mail and other companies. So they come with a lot of experience, okay? And they're used to doing things in a certain way. Sometimes that is challenging because those ways are not necessarily systematic ways. And this is what Lean provides. It provides a systematic approach. One piece of advice I'd like to give is for those of you who are working on Lean and the culture of Lean and encouraging this culture within your organizations, that you need to work on your relationship with the executive, the senior management team. Don't expect them to know it all. Don't expect them to support it from day one. You need to work on that relationship. You need to show them what's in it for them. Why is it important? What will it achieve? What results will it achieve? How will that translate into business results? And you need to do it once, twice, 3 times until it's bought, until there's that buy-in. And then it needs to start from the top. The CEOs need to communicate this. We have created a syllabus, and it is compulsory. Everyone has to do it, CEO downwards. And it's also now part of our induction program. Thank you, SSA, for helping us put this together. They pretty much wrote it from A to Z. The results achieved, we have 15 certified green belts in Amman Post, and this is all within a 90-day period. 12 certified sponsors. We have 7 lean projects that have been completed, and over 350,000 riyals of documented efficiency results. And right now, this is only for one project, actually. We're going through the cost analysis. We're doing cost analysis for the other remaining 6 projects. So 350,000 riyals only by optimizing our inventory. And I want to thank SSA for assisting us with this. They have a lot of experience when it comes to lean deployment and business excellence as per EFQM. And we feel very happy that this partnership is working successfully.
So one of my questions was, so how do you guys keep the focus on lean transformation? Like, okay, how do you say that you keep sustaining the sense of urgency for improving things in the organization? So one of their insights was, they said that we are never satisfied with the way things are. So one of the questions so they took us to one of their engine plants, and they said that this plant used to operate at a move rate of 52 seconds. So every 52 seconds, an engine rolls out of the line. They said we were very unhappy with 52 seconds, so we challenged the team that can you do it in 44 seconds? How the hell is it possible? You have all these fancy equipment and all sorts of process technologies that you have invested in, but they figured out a way. Lean is many things. So it is, sometimes I get amazed by how many angles to view lean with, right? Because any angle you take to look at lean and a new perspective opens up. Most importantly, in looking at, can this help to enhance the organization's value, to create organization ability to create value? That means we want to make more money now, and we want to make more money in the future. Can we build an organization that facilitates this objective, right? Grasping the current condition and establishing a target condition, and then experimenting our way through those obstacles, right? When you see some of the lean case studies, it looks very glamorized, which means that, oh, this was a huge opportunity, we just tapped it and we saved, several hundreds. But the reality is not so, it's not so storybook-like. So there's a lot of challenges we face, there are obstacles, and they need to be dealt with. And these could be obstacles pertaining to stakeholder onboarding, obstacles pertaining to technological limitations, and obstacles pertaining to support from supply chain, and so on and so forth. It's a very simple way of looking at things, what we call as TIMWOOD, which stands for waste of transport, inventory, waiting, over-processing, overproduction, defect, motion, wasted human skills, and so on. It's simply a perspective of looking at things, which means that a constant dissatisfaction with the way things are and challenging, can this be made simpler? So what could be a lean KPI? And this comes up often in discussion, right? How do you look at, the typical questions may come, this has worked in automotive manufacturing. Does it work in our format of manufacturing? We do batch processing. We cannot do single piece flow. Lean talks about pulling something with a rope and so on. So the short answer to that is it applies, these ideas are very, very universal. It applies in a manufacturing parlance and it applies in a service parlance equally.
People ask, will lean work for me? In reality, it's like asking, does leadership work for me? Or does being fair work for me? I mean, you have to get back to your primitiveness, your instinct. Become a kid in your thinking, very pure. That's what lean is. I mean, when a kid wants to create a task, wants to perform a task, just try to monitor that kid. You will see that the kid does not waste his time. He chooses or she chooses the easiest ways to achieve that point. What would be the right approach to go on lean change transformation or lean change management or lean management, whatever we call it? Now, in Oman Cables, we started engaging everyone. And when we say engaging everyone, we started by selecting our team. Before that, of course, there was the approval process of convincing our board. And you know, board level people, the owners, they will always ask you for figures. So we showed the investment, and we promised and committed on results. We tried to manage the results at a lower level, even though we knew that we are going to exceed that at some point, just to reduce the pressure on people inside the organization and to build the culture throughout the organization. Today, if you ask me, what are all the lean projects that happened from March till today, I can't remember them, because there are many. There are really many. I only see them on slides when I go and present them in front of the STICO. And when I discuss the performance of those projects. Yes, I follow the critical ones, but there are many. And more than 40 projects. We started with a plan with Naveen, planning for 20 projects throughout the year. We decided in Oman Cables that we are going to train each and every employee in the organization. We have around 750 people. Today, these 750 people know about lean, and they are practicing lean in the organization, right? Because we believe that the ideas come from the people on the shop floor. And we openly told them that if you don't propose ideas, all right, we at the top will never know what's happening down. Corporate culture has become so difficult and so complicated with all people in the organization that people say it cannot be changed. No, it can be changed. And it can be changed. It's difficult. It's not easy. It might take a little bit more time, but it can be changed. So it's never too late. If you see the picture on the right-hand side, that's the picture of the lean team, which includes the STICO and all the chiefs and executives in the organization. We made sure that they attend those sessions. They practice with their hands when their people work and get trained. Yes, we had separate sessions for them to raise their awareness, etc., and show them. Naveen and Mr. Nsi were presenting some awareness sessions to them. We are on a one-year journey. Now, when we call one-year journey, it's a project to establish that culture in the organization. Does it end? Is it a project? No, it's not a project. It's a culture. It's a journey which doesn't stop. Once you start it, it's there. Now, the HR aspect of it is that this has to become part of their day-to-day activity, not of the lean team, but the complete organization. So the performance appraisals, the annual planning, that has to be an item on that. And they have to be measured. Using it as a KPI, they have to be measured against that. So they complete their performance when they achieve a certain kind of improvement. As Said Nasser also mentioned, sometimes you have to be tough. And when you have to be tough, you have to be tough. But in reality, every one of your organization has to become lean practitioner at different levels. Lean practitioner at white belt level, you can take them at green belt level, you can take them at black belt level.
Great transformation journey. I think my question is more about how do you plan to sustain this benefit? Because I do believe sustainability is one of the challenges that we normally face on transformation journeys. So I just want to understand your structure and how you're going to do it. Thanks.
I think most importantly is that we have created champions for lean within the organization. These are the people that are going to ring the bell on any issues. But other than the champions part of it, I think the realization that we currently have is that the market changes, yeah? And we have to change with it. And whatever journey we have achieved till date is relevant till today. It will not be relevant the same time next year. And the initiative that we had, Al-Bayruni School of Skills in CPI, is one of the key areas that is going to ensure that the skills we build are not only for workmanship, but also on a higher level when it comes to our leaders in the organization. Yeah, and part of it will be lean.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you very much for sharing that excellent experience. This is Jihan Al-Fanna, Department of Quality, Royal Hospital. And we have a similar experience in the power of lean in hospitals with patients. So if we can do it, obviously every one of you can do it. And I would say it's a must. Maybe a decade back it was an option, but I believe now it's no longer an option. It's a must for survival. I was curious because one of the key, elimination of waste is the effective use of skills. So I was very impressed and curious about where you said skill management system.
Yes.
If you can just...
Okay. So what we did, along with SSA, is that we identified, I think, a set of 40 skills required for CPI to be competitive in the market. And we identified these 40 skills, and then we've put the name of the employees and what skill he has out of these 40 skills. And going on in the future, we decided that the market changes, and the set of skills, the combination of skills that we require are also changing. Yeah? So depending on the type of project that we will be receiving, we will be able, in few months' time, to say that Ahmed, Jihad, Nasser will need, out of the 40, he will need the 5 skills. Okay? And then we specify, or we do the training to these new employees according to the skills that we need, rather than just go to the factory and learn. No, we've identified these 40 set of skills, and depending on the market realities, we'll be training the people, especially our new people or even our existing employees.
Mr. Said Maskari, it was a very good presentation. But one question which I need to ask you is, how did you manage change, which is the most, the soft side of it? I mean, how did you manage the communication, particularly trying to engulf the entire organization along with you in terms of taking these very tricky challenges, and why very important is because you're also going to face the problem of rationalization also would have resulted by virtue of certain lean processes. It is inevitable. So hence the communication and managing the change is very, very vital. So just would like to know your experience.
I think I'm very lucky in CPI to have good people. But to change does not require a soft approach. And incidentally, in our organization, we have 2 approaches: the soft approach, and we have the strong approach. And in CPI, I have Mr. Subramaniam over there. He is the strong man in CPI that makes change happen. And I'm doing the soft corner, making the change, look positive. Of course, resistance to change is a challenge that faces each and every organization. And we should not expect that people will, if you show them a good presentation, they will automatically comply to the change. It's a combination of different factors. In layman's terms, you say you give the carrot and the stick. And I think this combination of approaches eventually will help. Not everyone will change by words, and not everyone will change by the stick. Yeah. So this combined approach helps us a lot. Plus, we had a very motivated mid-level managers who did the change on the other side of the spectrum.
My question is that there are 600 employees I heard in Oman Post. I wanted to know, how did you drill down to these employees? I know the 600 employees are, across Oman. So how did you manage, to drill down to them to see that lean is understood and practiced? And what you achieved in the first session? I mean to say, this is ongoing, I know it is continuous improvement process. What I want to know, what did you achieve so far with the introduction of lean? Thank you.
So what we have done, I think if I want to call it the magic wand, is in the engagement, employee engagement. And we decided this year to launch Oman Post Forum around business excellence. And we called it Oman Post Forum 2018 Business Excellence, and it's going to be a yearly annual thing to celebrate business excellence. And what we have done, we've invited all 600 employees to Muscat at Sultan Qaboos University over a 3-day period, where the executive team deliver a presentation to our staff about lean.
Good afternoon. This is Ram Krishnan. I am the CFO in Al-Ashar & Company. This is a question to Mr. Abbas. See, being a IT head, you must have implemented various IT projects. So one of the key challenges is the change management, because there will be a lot of cost redundancies which will come as a result of implementing the projects. So how do you manage the changes? And especially, there is a kind of human element involved.
Yes. I never take a project if I can't prove to myself before I prove to my management that I'm going to optimize with it or save with it.
My question is to Said Nasser, as you had worked with the Ministry of Environment for a number of years, and recently you have moved into Oman Post. What is the difference, and what have you found in Oman Post which you didn't find in the ministry for deploying lean, and opposite side also?
Experience with the Ministry of Environment or government entity and the lean deployment was very interesting in that it provided the grounds for it was a very important learning experience for me. I learned a lot from that experience and deploying it. And the challenge from the beginning was, we received a lot of, you're a government organization. What are you talking about lean and deploying lean? You cannot do that. The laws doesn't present. The laws and regulations will not allow that, etc., etc., etc. But I go back and say, it's as simple as you can make it simple or you can make it complicated. Lean is a way, it's a systematic approach of problem solving. And again, you need to demonstrate to leadership what's in it for them. They need to see that, they need to visualize that. And today, the Ministry of Environment is a lean star. In fact, they are, at least when I was there, they deployed lean so well that even PDO, my colleagues from PDO, at least with the lean projects that we were doing, stated that you've, in some cases, even achieved more than what we could have achieved in very little time. What was the result is they went from being the worst organization in issuing permits to the private sector the worst, an average time of 7 months to issue one permit, okay? 2, the quickest in the world, and I challenge every single one of you here, and I've said this publicly, find me any data that has been published that shows that there is a quicker ministry that issues environmental permits in the world.
Now, talking specifically about lean over here at the corporate level, I can tell you there are 2-3 things that are very, very important. I think as all of you, you might have faced that in the Middle East, particularly we are facing a lot of challenges in the market. We are facing challenges in geopolitics, and we are also facing challenges in the oil prices, which is not showing any signs of any direction, a direction free, to that particular movement. So what are we going to do in that particular scenario? The scenario is quite very, very challenging. I think lean is the answer, because when there are challenges to the top line, I think you need to sort of look at internally and revitalize yourself, and also ensure in order for your sustenance, lean processes have to be introduced.
I am Bahumi Tarura. I am from Al Turki/Al Tasneem Enterprises, which is the group which is into construction and oil and gas. Now, with the grace of God, this group seems to be doing pretty well, and we are well-entrenched contractors in the oil and gas and doing fairly well. Unfortunately, because of the situation that Mr. Chandrasekhar just mentioned, other oil and gas contractors do not seem to be doing so well, as a result of which they are idle Omani drivers, there are idle welders, etc., which sometimes the government of Oman and the PDO is forcing us to absorb. It is a part of the regulatory authority. We cannot say much about it, but as a result of it, sometimes it so happens that we don't need people and we are thrust upon some additional people, which we cannot say no to. Add to that some other, local regulations, like for example, we have to give some work to local community contractors, the LCCs, etc., etc. So what I'm trying to say is, excellent lean environment, according to me, facilitates in a governance which does not have too many constraints. Unfortunately, if there are so many constraints, then even if we want to be lean, sometimes there are forces against us. I would just like to know your response against this.
So the terminology lean is actually a brainstorming given by James Womack to his students, that how do we represent this in an English term. And the team came up with the idea, let us call this as lean. I don't know whether it's the right name or a wrong name. But unfortunately, when we see lean, anything which is unwanted, when we get rid of it, for example, we go to the gym for getting rid of our unnecessary fat in the body. So this concept of lean can be misrepresented in many different ways. One of the most dangerous ways is when we say we are going to go lean, then they think that there will be a lot of loss of jobs, which is not the case. Because lean applied into, like for example, in one of the lean in service book, the author writes about lean in finance. He gives an example that you make a budget, and then there are certain allocations are made, and people try to spend that money at the end of the year, thinking that if they don't spend, then next year they may not get the budget. And the same organization has got some allocation kept in a certain account, and they go to another, overdraft and borrow the money. So there are hundreds of ways the lean can be applied. Like for example, one of the stock exchange was trying to bill the customers, their members, on the 8th of every month. But there is no reason why they cannot bill it on the 1st of the month. So when they could start billing from the 1st of the month, they saved crores of rupees, Indian rupees. The point I am trying to make is, lean is not intended for manpower reduction. Lean is intended for optimizing the organization. There are many different ways the companies which have adopted lean in the right spirit, their market demands have gone up phenomenally.
People are feeling the risk because they know that if they simplify their process, they're going to be sacked out of the organization. Because, the process that required 10 requires 2 today, right? So that we knew that this kind of environment is going to build up throughout very quickly, few months. So what we did is, we went to the people, and I made sure that I walk around with my manager, who's the sponsor of the project, walk around the plant, in every section of the plant, and talk to the operators. We tried to spread a different message. The organization is willing to invest to protect your jobs.
My name is Yahya Al-Habsi. I'm from Oman Gas Company, OGC. Thank you all for the nice presentations. It's really an opportunity for me to get to know more about Lean, and I know Lean, and we're trying to implement it in OGC at the moment. I just have maybe a request or a comment that is related to having a chapter of Lean society in Oman. Is there such a thing exist? Is it maybe a time now to have one that encompass all the professionals or Lean experts in the country, or people who are interested in Lean, to gather once a month, once a quarter, something like that?
SSA has been doing, I think this is our 4th iteration of the Lean Leaders Forum. The first version we did was back in 2014, if I'm not wrong. Every time we announce this program, we have overbooked seats. So it's something very heartening that the interest on this subject is phenomenal. And we have been debating about how to make this more accessible in more like our RTC roundtable discussions, which could be a more frequent occurrence.